before we get started, I just wanted to remind everybody that BoxoPROJECTS is located on the unceded territories of the Chimawave, Kawia, Serrano, and Mojave peoples, and we're grateful to be here and to be sort of trespassing for a short period in the great scheme of things. I wanted to welcome Danielle Cornell on our executive committee, and Bonnie and George Kopp, who are on the advisory committee, and welcome everybody else as well. So thank you for being here today. 2 years ago, during Freeze, a woman sort of arrived on the property unannounced and asked for a tour, and it ended up being Katerina Machada, who's the curator of contemporary at the Seattle Museum, and we had a great chat and a great tour. And at that time, or sometime shortly after that, Lisa was in residence at High Desert Test Sites, and Katerina suggested that Lisa come over here and take a look about coming to Boxo for a more extended residency, and I'm very grateful that she did. So Lisa's been here for 6 weeks now, which has been wonderful and kind of just flown by. And the residency, for people who don't know, is an invitational residency, and people propose a project of sorts. And Lisa proposed a project and came here and went in a very different direction, which is wonderful. That's always a great development on a residency. So without any further ado, I'll introduce you to Lisa. We'll have a chat, and then I'll come back to you at the end.
Thank you. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, everyone, making it out here today. Yes, 6 weeks, like that. I have been here this time working primarily with linen and cotton, my work go between textile and painting. And what you're looking at here today is work in progress. So these are not finished pieces. However, it's becoming foundation for a new body of work that I'll be creating. But before I'm starting to talk about what I've been doing here, I wanted to show you some slides of previous work that I've been, where all of this has sort of where it comes from. Yeah, so what I'm interested in is sort of this curious hierarchy. So my background is as a visual artist and a painter, and about 8-9 years ago I started to weave, and since then I've been very curious to explore these two different fields, painting and weaving, and how the language around the two mediums are, how we talk about them, the values that's attributed to the two expressions, and how different they are. So language is an interest of mine as well. And this, so I'm going to go through pretty quick, like these slides. This is work from my last solo exhibition 2.5 years ago. So this is textile, like woven textile that's folded, compressed together, that creates the image once this is about 5 yards of woven work, so compressed together. It creates its own composition and image. It's from the Blue Fire series. There are 6 pieces of them through there, and here you can see the dimension. They rest on a steel shelf, so that's hidden, so you can't really see it. So I was really interested to play with the surface and the composition and to make it an object. This work was inspired, so I'm interested in abstraction as well. So this work is the same amount of, the same amount of the dimension of that folded piece that you saw. That's an installation on top of the wooden structure. So I would say also, I go back to this, that I'm interested in tension. Tension exists both in weaving. In fact, it's fundamental for the for weaving to weave. You have to have a lot of tension, and also as a painter, if you paint on canvas, like when it's stretched around the frame, you've got that same thing. So that's like an overlap that I'm interested of. So I think I'm really curious about, like, how does the painter think? How does the weaver think? And like, where is that sort of the edge of those two fields? Here's a piece. It's from, these are broad paintings where the canvas rests on a wooden dowel, and there's steel that's sort of behind the canvas to create like that tension that's placed within the wooden frame. I'm interested like how painting is displayed and how textile have its own language of display, so I sort of play with them. This piece here is it's called Untitled Tapestry, and this is really very, very difficult to see, but you see these nails here. I make the connection when I start to talk about this piece later, but that's a direct, this piece influenced this work right here. And that's woven linen and cotton. And here you see there's a yellow thread here that creates an image area when you take off the tapestry from the loom and stretch it for it to dry. This piece is called Periphery, and here I play with the language of textile finishing techniques, the fringes. And so I deconstructed the industrial canvas and created these fringes, and I become more and more aware of how I'm not so interested, like the material becomes the image. I'm not so interested in creating more images that doesn't, like new images. So I really like for the material to create the image itself. And this is a drawing. It's a drawing. It's 80 feet of paper, acrylic, like on paper that's folded. And I think this is a piece that shows my interest in sort of dimension and mass, and curious to sort of find like where the edges are, like how when is a drawing no longer a drawing, and when is a painting no longer a painting, like that sort of space in between I'm interested in. And this piece is the last piece I did back in January, and that's a woven piece where the lines have become destabilized. So it's orange, green, and blue is this piece, and so that's sort of where the context for this work. So I'm gonna turn this off, and then I'm going to we can put the lights on and take this off. Because this makes a sound. Do you wanna? Somebody gonna have that? Oh yeah. So yeah. So back here into the studio when I arrived. This keeps like. So when I came here, and what I had talked to Bernard about was to work with painting and weaving. I was also interested to explore the line as a mark making. So I'll begin here, and you can look at this band that's woven, cotton and linen. And I brought these interloop that I created this band. So I worked on that to create this prototype of, we can take it down. And so you see the connection between the work that I showed you of those woven pieces, like that line, I wanted to work with a line. And so that's how I started out. I was thinking, can I create a drawing in this space? So I knew I wanted to work with scale and using my body, so I kind of worked with existing, there was a hook here, I worked like quite quick, but it had all the, for me, that was interesting of what makes a composition dynamic. I wanted to explore like how I move around this and within the space. And somewhere, I would say, like a few weeks in here, I also started to work with the painting on. I had woven textile for here to paint with, and it didn't really felt interesting. But what was interesting, I started to really allow the landscape to affect my work, or how I thought about the work. So I just let the painting go, and I started to think as if my body was a landscape, and sort of the vastness of sort of this environment, I allowed that to influence the work. And then I wanted to keep the lightness. So I go between like this band, this piece informs me, I would like to weave this piece, but explore a little bit different material and a thinner line. But I think these yarn drawings have become an interesting way of working, even I would say like with painting. So I will take you through, yeah, here we see from that piece that I showed my slides, this utilitarian composition that's used in tapestry making. I use it as a, I play with it as an abstraction, and I also wanted to paint, but instead of painting on this any surface, I decided to work on the walls. And I would say here's another piece, like this shape that I explore, which I find interesting, because I said I would want to explore painting, but I'm actually doing that, but I didn't think in a way that I had guessed, because I'm painting like on the thread itself here. So these pieces here are connected to those drawings. I call them wall drawings. And I build models and prototypes in the studio, so where I get to test and look at the work over an arc of a time to see if it holds my interest. That's usually an indication that it's like worth to continue to explore. I'd say here is another PJ. I did one inspirations with weaving and painting. One is industrial canvas, and one is woven canvas. So I wanted to see like what's the difference between these. So I think I will continue to explore this. And naturally, this would be a composition that would be very difficult to weave because it's diagonal. So this has some interest of mine to continue with that here. And then what also happened here at Boxo, I started to think about scale outside the studio, and with Bernard's encouragement and help, I was able to create this outdoor sculptural structure from that composition that is out in the garden. And I think, yeah, that explains what you're seeing here, and I'm open for any questions. Does anybody have questions? Yeah.
This is really cool. I learned to weave in Sweden, and I mean, everybody weaves there. I couldn't believe how many people have looms, and they weave everything. So did you grow up doing that? I think they teach it in high school. So you wove conventional fabrics for never?
No. In fact, no, I know. So it's interesting, when I was very young, my mother had a loom. It was put in one of the rooms in our house, and it was a small room and a big loom, and I was just annoyed and like, it's in the way. That's like my recognition of a loom. But, I moved to the US when I was around 25. So I was a visual artist. I identify as a painter, and I still do in sort of in a thinking mind, but really I am working with weaving very seriously. But I haven't, it's not like I left painting to become a weaver. It's like I'm still that same, thinking the same way, but I just use this different material. I did go back 4 years ago actually, to Sweden to learn like on Sweden in a very traditional context. But no, I grew up during a time where I didn't start weaving until like 8 years ago.
That's crazy. I'm sure it's in your bones.
I think it's in the hands.
Yeah.
It's in the hands. But I came to weaving because I was interested in the flax, the linen in the canvas. That's where it started. So I took a class, a workshop to learn how to spin. And of course, like when I had a thread, I took a class to weave, and so that was it.
So you spun linen?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
And fine? I mean, as fine as this?
I decided not to become a really good spinner because like working with materiality, it's really, and I noticed this here, the yarn and like weaving, the painting, like these are mediums that sort of really ask like very specific things of me. So when I paint and use colors, like I can't, like that's all. So I'm very focused. So I can't go between too many mediums at all, which is why I left the painting except like these explorations. But I'm really thrilled about like painting on yarn.
Tell me about that, because how do you paint on yarn? I mean,
Well, the thing, like I think there has to be like, I found in my work that I have to be working very light. So I work very slowly, I work very methodical, because it's in that gesture and movement where I can feel if it's working, or if it has, like what the material, if it wants to absorb. Like for instance, I have with Bernard, like I asked like every week, I wanted us to talk about the work as it developed. And I got really stuck in like 1 week where I tried to get the painting to stick on that woven surface, the textile that I created, and to just like, this doesn't work, this is like force, right? So everything here feels very light, but and that's exciting to me. I'm thinking in minimal terms of sort of the most impact with as few gestures. Long answer to a very short question.
I can't believe the contrast between what you're doing and this environment. And I'm curious about what you showed us on the slides, that wasn't painting.
Right.
So what were your paintings like?
The paintings?
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't do paintings anymore like on industrial canvas.
Mm-hmm.
So this is I think where the work I'm not leaving like weaving or painting. Like I think my work is to really create a seamless go between, and whatever medium informs the other. So this one worked well. It was actually quite difficult to weave like very dense cotton. But this little test tells me like, yeah, this works. I can weave my canvases, and this I would do it in cotton, and I can paint on it, which is quite big. So I will explore that, but I just did like this small piece here, and focused on the scale. But I did allow really the landscape, the environment, which is like really incredible. You will live here, I think, most of you, but it's been quite profound to be here for this long and just every day, just like be in this space. And I think it really has informed the work a lot. So, yeah. Any other questions? Yes.
Some of the works that come out from the wall a little bit are shadows, sort of quiet partners of the work.
Yeah.
Or
So that is an effect that I don't work intentionally with, but I start to become aware of the light, and that will affect like how can I maybe work, like it's another component. We'll see. This piece here actually, when I took this out in the sunlight, it made these reflections like back. So that light really inspired the structural piece as well. So the piece outside, I decided to take one of these compositions and to expand it in scale vertically using rope. So when we're there, I'm not sure how we are with time, but that's one of these pieces have informed that structure. And so that makes me think about, I start to think, it's a little too early to say, but it sort of has an architectural quality to it, and that's something that I also haven't really intentionally think about. So that's like quite new.
Yeah, I think speaking about the outside piece is a good moment. So thank you very much for being here. I also wanted to introduce woman in pink, Ariana. Do you want to stand up? Sorry, this is Ariana, who's helping organize a walk for peace. And so please, she has some flyers and she's happy to talk to you. So please have a chat with Ariana. It's going to take place next week in downtown Joshua Tree, I believe. And other than that, thank you so much for being here. We're all going to walk over, well, those of us who'd like to do the outdoor piece, and then Lisa can give us a brief intro there. But thanks so much for being here.
And also I want to say a huge thanks to Bernard for these 6 weeks.